Okay, let's talk about a revolution, but not one with swords and soldiers. We're talking about a revolution of telescopes, microscopes, and some seriously mind-bending ideas. This isn't just a history lesson. It's really the origin story of our modern world, and, maybe more importantly, the modern mind. So let's dive in. So let's just start with the one question that really kicked this entire thing off. How do we actually know what is true? I mean, really, think about it. For most of human history, the answer was, well, it was a lot simpler than you might think.
For centuries, truth pretty much came from the top down. You trusted the ancient authorities, guys like Aristotle, and you accepted the traditions that have been around forever. But the scientific revolution completely flipped the script. It pushed this really radical new idea. Truth isn't something you inherit, it's something you discover. It has to be tested with your own eyes through observation and real experiments.
So what was this big revolutionary idea? Well, it was way more than just a new theory. It was an entirely new way of thinking that really became the engine for everything that came after. And the engine driving all this change? We call it the scientific method. Now, its core idea is deceptively simple, but man, is it powerful. It says that any idea, doesn't matter how brilliant it sounds, must be tested against reality. And here's the ultimate test. Someone else has to be able to copy your experiment and get the exact same results. So, what did this new process actually look like? Well, it's a super systematic approach. It starts with a testable idea, what we call a hypothesis. Then, you go and conduct an experiment to see if it actually holds up. You observe what happens, you analyze the data, but that final step, that's the real game changer. Can somebody else reproduce your results? That single, disciplined process became the key to unlocking a whole new universe of knowledge. And the first big ripple from this new way of thinking was just immense. It didn't just, tweak science a little bit. It started to completely rewrite our entire understanding of the universe. And boy, it happened fast. I mean, back in the 16th century, you had people like Copernicus and Vesalius, who started to question everything we thought we knew about the cosmos and even our own bodies. Fast forward to the 17th century, and Galileo and Boyle are laying down the fundamental laws of motion. And then, in the 18th century, Isaac Newton comes along and basically writes the new rulebook for physics, cementing this whole new scientific framework. Just stop and think for a second about how absolutely earth-shattering these ideas were. Heliocentrism, the simple fact that we are not the center of the universe. For centuries, the idea that the Earth was the center wasn't just science. It was backed by the church. It was backed by common sense. But this new method proved our own senses wrong. Or how about the idea that we could understand our own anatomy, not from some ancient dusty book, but by actually looking? And maybe the most profound of all, the universe itself isn't random chaos. It operates on predictable mathematical laws that we can actually understand. So the crucial point here is this. This was the moment science truly came into its own. It became its own independent field, where the final authority wasn't a person or a book, but hard, verifiable evidence. But, an idea this powerful could never stay locked up in a laboratory. The second ripple started to spread out, moving from science into society itself, and it sparked what we now call a new age of reason. And this created a huge conflict. You see, for centuries, truth and power were held by these massive established institutions, like the church. But all of a sudden, this new way of thinking suggested that authority could be found inside the individual, in your ability to reason and to look at the evidence for yourself. This was a seismic shift in where society looked for answers. The impact on culture was just enormous. It sparked this wave of skepticism, encouraging people to think critically about, everything. This spirit directly fueled the Enlightenment, that huge philosophical movement guided by reason. And right at its core, it placed this new, powerful value on intellectual freedom. And this knowledge didn't just stay with a few thinkers in a quiet room. It began to spread like wildfire. New groups started popping up, like the Royal Society of London, specifically to share discoveries. They created systems for things like peer review and publishing their findings. And of course, the printing press made it possible for these new ideas to reach way more people than just a small circle of elites. Okay, so this brings us to the third ripple, the tangible legacy. This is the point where all these scientific ideas jump right off the page and begin to physically build the modern world around us. This new science, because it was grounded in real-world evidence, led directly to an absolute explosion of
practical applications and brand new technological innovation. And it's this crucial connection
that laid the direct groundwork for the Industrial Revolution. It turned abstract scientific principles into the actual engines and factories that would go on to reshape the entire planet.
And you can draw a straight line from then to now. The advances in science became the bedrock for progress in modern medicine, saving millions of lives. They fueled industrial technology and gave us the principles of modern engineering. I mean, the actual building blocks of the world you see today were forged right here.
But maybe the most profound ripple of all wasn't external. It was internal. The final legacy of this whole revolution is its lasting impact on the way we think. It's the revolution that happened inside your own mind.
Because after all the societal shifts and all the new technology, the deepest legacy is the installation of a new mindset. Let's call it the rational worldview. It's kind of like the operating system that a lot of us are running on today, often without even realizing it.
So what's in this mental toolkit we inherited? Well, it's the core belief that natural phenomena aren't just mysterious magic. They can be understood. It's the conviction that reason and evidence are the best tools we have to navigate the world. And it's that quiet confidence that our problems, big or small, can be solved systematically.
And make no mistake, this is the intellectual foundation of modern thought. It influences everything, from our political systems and our laws to the way we teach our kids in school. This entire way of seeing the world was born directly out of the scientific revolution.
So we end here. If the greatest lesson of the scientific revolution was to constantly question established truths with evidence and with reason, that leads to one last thought. What truth that we all take for granted today will be the one that gets questioned by the thinkers of tomorrow?